So, welcome back. Recently, we, the technology sector of New Zealand, launched this new campaign called See Tomorrow First. And it's an idea that we as a country need to tell a consistent story about who we are and what our technology sector can do for the world. And it was launched in 2022. It's backed by industry and government working together. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, the way that the industry and companies, but also the government agencies like the one that I'm part of, came together to create this story. And in the session we're about to have now, we've got it says here a tripartite team. That makes it sound very fancy. Actually, we've just got three incredible women from NZTech, NZTE and New Zealand Story, who are going to help us understand and provide a bit of an update about how See Tomorrow First has been activated, used, and how we're using it abroad and internationally and in New Zealand to grow the tech sector. But let me introduce them. That's the camera there in the middle. I'm going to introduce them, starting from your right, my left. Amy Knightley is the Director of Marketing and Communications at New Zealand Story. She's a senior brand marketing and communications professional, is an advocate of using storytelling. Did you provide, it's quite a long, do I have to read the whole thing out?
No.
Okay, cool. But anyway, Amy's been part of the New Zealand Story team twice now. Once as an accident, but twice as a deliberate decision. She is leading all of our marketing and communications. She's also a member of the Board of Trustees for the Starship Foundation, which is pretty cool. So welcome.
Thank you.
We've got Courtney Peters here. Damn, I've done it out of order. Sorry, Courtney. Courtney is the brand and marketing manager at NZTech, which is the industry group for the technology sector in New Zealand. And Courtney, again, master storyteller or brand strategist, digital marketer, with a huge background. Look here, spanning aviation, media, technology, startups, events, food and wine. Yeah. You put food and wine at the end of everything. Everyone does food and wine. She started her career as a pilot and then went into copywriting and now followed a winding path to where she is now. But as part of her current role, she is the marketing and brand manager for NZTech, driving the sector engagement. Welcome. And last but not least, we have in the middle Jordan Gunn. Jordan is the campaign activation manager for NZTE, Trade and Enterprise. And I said to Jordan, how did you end up here? She said that circuitous route through advertising, sustainability, startups, worked for Google for a while in the UK. Apparently the lunches were very good. Yep. Now works at Trade and Enterprise on the activation side of this campaign, which we'll talk about in a minute, and lives in Taranaki. So welcome, Jordan.
Thank you.
Bloody good. Right, let's talk. Don't swear for a start. That's what I did wrong right there. So sorry about that. First of all, See Tomorrow First. I quickly introduced it, but maybe Courtney, you'd be better to say what is this thing called See Tomorrow First? It's kind of written all around us.
It's up here. Yep. So it's an internationally facing brand for the tech sector, and the idea of it is to grow our reputation offshore. Just as you were talking about before, we're not known globally for our technology. So the idea is to create a kind of framework or set of messaging that really leans into what our strengths are in tech and the way we do tech.
Yeah.
And so it's a whole raft of assets which are on New Zealand Story's website. It's also a platform, seetomorrowfirst.nz, where we can tell case studies, we can tell news stories about New Zealand technology, and it's also a whole series of activations which Jordan is helping to run offshore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you represent sort of the industry here. You've been working on it from the kind of industry side. Can you tell a little bit about the project itself? How did the project happen?
Wow, where to start? It's been a long time coming, and you probably were there at the genesis of it. But basically it was understood that this was an issue that we had, that our New Zealand technology companies, when they went offshore, their New Zealandness wasn't a selling point. Often it was the opposite. People will say, you're from a small country, you're from the other side of the world. How can we find a way of changing that messaging so that it can be a strength, that being a New Zealand technology company can get their foot in the door with offshore buyers and investors. And so we did a whole bunch of research, NZTech and our industry and agency partners, to find out what it was about New Zealand technology offshore that made us unique. And we created this brand and this story so that we can attract more investment, attract more buyers, and attract talent from overseas. And so that's what launched in 2022. And now we work together as a team across the three agencies to do all our different bits.
We do actually.
And so we all have our distinct jobs.
Yeah.
My job specifically is to engage the tech sector with the campaign and the opportunities it presents, and also to provide kind of a closed loop for these government agencies with the tech sector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the important things I think you said there is that it was informed by research. So it's not just what we think about ourselves, it's what the world thinks about us. And there's a bit to that, and it carries on that research. And Jordan, I know you're doing a bit in this area.
Yep. So we've carried it on because through the industry transformation plan and the building of the story, we selected 4 international markets that we wanted to work with just to start with, to roll out the campaign and to start the storytelling. So we've actually gone and done further research in those international markets. Just to make sure that our messaging is going to land in market. We're understanding what actually drives tech decision makers. So I think the difference is we've talked to tech decision makers, so buyers, investors in market, to really understand what drives them, what they currently think of New Zealand technology, where we've got room to improve. There's a little bit of room for us to improve in most markets, and we're just starting to get wave 1 results now. So we're looking forward to sharing that with the tech ecosystem here probably over the next month or so.
Yeah. You mentioned 4 markets. Put Amy on the spot here. This would be fun.
Oh,
what
yeah.
are those
What
4
have we
markets? The 4 international markets that we're focused on.
So for the NZTE international activation, those markets are the UK, US, Australia and Singapore. Slightly different if we were talking about recruitment storyteller though.
Which we'll get to, I'm
Yep.
sure.
Okay, so I won't go there then.
Yeah,
But-
so those are the markets where we believe there's an opportunity for New Zealand technology companies to establish themselves or sell their products.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what did we learn from that research, and how did it inform our thinking? That would have been a really fascinating thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jordan speaks to this really well, but I could give high level. It created our kind of our key messages for the tech story, which is our framing. So there's things like the fact that we have fresh, challenging solutions, the fact that we are a really interconnected ecosystem and collaborate really easily, the fact that we are a trusted, safe, stable country with a really strong government, and the fact that because of our space and where we come from and the size of our market, our tech companies tend to think globally from day one, to think about how they can solve world problems rather than just problems for here, and how that makes us a really good international partner for technology.
Yeah.
What we're realising now with the further research that we've done is that in some markets it's quite important to dial up 1 or 2 of those messages versus in others something else might be important. So we're really excited to share that because we think that obviously is going to be a great sort of landing pad for people entering into the market or tailoring your messaging for exporting into those markets.
And I think you've hit something that Amy will know a lot about, which is that research does show you that actually markets are very different from each other and you do have to adjust.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about that probably in the context of we're doing a similar thing when we get to recruitment storyteller. I can talk because we did more research as well on that. But yeah, it is about dialing up and knowing what you need to do, say, and show in each market. So that research helps informs the gaps and the perception that you have versus the perception you want to have and what you need to do to sort of shift that story along, to make, I guess, the lesser known more well known over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when I've sort of touched on this, you've realised that in some international markets, they know us fairly well. Like the UK knows a bit about New Zealand, but the US might not. And so therefore the types of things you might say to a US market or a UK market are quite different from each other, and the way you say it might be very different.
And what we have to convince them on is very different, I think.
Yeah. So that's the story, and Courtney did a great job of sort of talking about the different elements. Now we're in this mode where we've got the story and we need to activate it, like we need to actually tell the story internationally. And Jordan, that's where you and NZTE's broader marketing team come in.
Yes, yeah. So we've got marketing teams in each of these markets, so I work really closely with them and we basically take the story, we work with our teams on the ground and we figure out how we're going to tell that story in market, and that can range from activating at events and trade shows, networking events, it is digital marketing and making sure that we're getting a broad message out there, it's engaging with the tech ecosystem, PR, it's sort of all of your traditional marketing tactics, but for our New Zealand technology sector. But we really do lean on companies to tell their stories, to really show our capabilities and the breadth of what we're doing here.
Before we talk about what we want the companies to do, because there will be a call to action for companies, but internationally, what would that look like? So would that be like at a trade show, a fintech trade show? New Zealand might have a stand there and we might talk about New Zealand.
Yep, so actually the next big one coming up is VivaTech in Paris. So big trade show, lots of countries turning up, lots of big brands turning up. We'll have a New Zealand stand. The New Zealand stand will be See Tomorrow First branded.
We'll probably scrape off the AUT logo.
Yeah, we'll take off a couple of logos and it'll look a bit like this.
Yeah.
And we make sure that we're telling our broad New Zealand story there. So we have New Zealand companies that show up. NZTech goes along, and we have our objectives there, but we also tell the broader New Zealand tech story as well in that environment. And then there's all of the juicy digital stuff and promotion around that as well.
All the fun stuff, cool.
Yeah.
So, and that's like a 2-year program, or at least we've got like plans for the next quite some time.
Yeah, well, about a year to go.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm sure that it will.
We have to twist some politicians.
Yeah,
get
exactly.
some more money out of them.
Yeah.
But okay.
Hopefully longer. I think we're just at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing about brand, because we're trying to build a brand for New Zealand globally, aren't we? And
Yes.
when you do that, you don't do that in a week or a month or a year even. You do it over multiple interactions, and you don't do it as one initiative. You need consistency from the companies, which kind of brings us to, what do we want companies to do, Courtney, on all this stuff?
Yeah, well, I think the first point is that the tech story, as I've said before, is a framework. So think of it as the picture frame, and you are the picture. So we need you to tell your story, and we need you to put it through this lens that helps you tell your story internationally. So I would suggest what to do is to go to seetomorrowfirst.nz and click on the domestic side of the website, and it's got all the information about what it's about, how to connect to the toolkit. But the first thing you could do is actually click on the quiz. So we've made a little quiz, which I think is of as like a personality test for your business. And what it will do is actually, it's 5 minutes long, it will align you with the key message. So you'll be able to see which of these key messages work best with your business and how you could kind of lean into that messaging. And then from there, you could choose what fits for your business. So every company has different marketing capabilities and also kind of interests. And I think that the toolkit has a really broad selection of things. So it could be like a template that you can use for social media if you use social media. It could be imagery or footage. It could be a presentation template. It could be a Zoom background. There's also the campaign logo itself, which you can see up here, which you can add to your website footer, just to show that, it's your little stamp that you're a New Zealand technology company, which is something we want you to feel proud about.
And when you are sharing your stories as well, I think the hashtag's a great way to be noticed and be seen. We've got See Tomorrow First activation channels, so we can always share your story simply by following people sharing the hashtag. And then
And the hashtag is See Tomorrow First?
It is hashtag See Tomorrow First.
Yes.
Yep.
And the other thing I'd just add is that seetomorrowfirst.nz is a platform where we're going to be landing everybody that we're gathering from these offshore campaigns. And it has a news and stories section and an events section. So if you have news that you want to share, whether that's a new product or a new partnership, or even if you're just going out to an international market for the first time, you can always email us at hello@seetomorrowfirst.nz and we can help you share that story. And we'd love for you to do that.
Is it hello at New Zealand, not Kia?
Yeah, hello
Maybe
at.
we could create an alias, Kia at See Tomorrow First.
I will do that.
Cool, thank you. Try it out later this afternoon and we'll see how good Courtney is. But now, Amy's brought it up twice, so clearly she wants to talk about it. And I also talked about it, which is this campaign or the sub-campaign that's part of See Tomorrow First. You mentioned, Courtney, that the audiences are buyers of New Zealand, of technology, investors potentially, but one of the other key audiences is potentially people that might want to come and work in New Zealand in the technology sector, a really critical audience. And as part of it, we've got this campaign, the recruitment campaign.
Yeah, we've got a new campaign. As Evan said, it's part of this particular part of it as part of the tech story. We're calling it Recruitment Storyteller, and it will have multiple sectors over time, but at the moment it's kicking off and it's live with tech. And so the reason for that was obviously globally there's severe talent shortages all over the world, and New Zealand is not immune to that. So we're seeing the need to attract tech talent quite critically into New Zealand to fill some of those gaps. So we set out, it feels like, well, it's been happening since I started, so over 7 months now, in the making, probably longer. And we set out to do research first, empathy research with migrant talent who are already here in New Zealand, to understand why New Zealand, why did they choose it, why did they choose to live and work here. So again, that we could understand the right key messages that we needed to tell offshore as part of our story to get people to come to New Zealand. We mix those kind of live and work key messages with the tech story key messages. So what's great about New Zealand tech and why would you want to come and be part of this tech scene here in New Zealand? And we've developed a whole suite of recruitment marketing assets that are available to download now at nzstory.gov.nz.
But you can also get to them via the See Tomorrow First thing, eh?
You can, absolutely. So they're there too. So it's a total collaboration with this group. And there's 2 ways that people can activate. They can either download the assets from our toolkit, and that includes heaps of different videos, by the way. We've got a live and work master video, we've got regional videos. The regions that we're focused on for the talent attraction piece of this are actually Asia, South Africa and South America, because we know that we attract good tech talent from those regions already. We have tech sector videos, all different cuts, 30 seconds, 50 seconds, 6 seconds. We have case studies of real migrants who have moved to New Zealand and are living and working here. And apart from the 90-second videos, all the others can be used in paid media, so people can boost them the way that they want to. So one way is to download and activate those yourself if you're a company. Another way is to sign up to a centralised activation solution with Haynes Attract. And Haynes will manage the media spend and also do screening of candidates actually when they come in through their platform Work Here before sending them to recruiters and companies, and hopefully that'll be a really great self-sustaining model actually.
Nice.
Activation.
So the whole idea then we've got something that's going to, again, consistent storytelling. So we're trying to get the world to understand more about the New Zealand tech scene, but at the same time maybe come to New Zealand to work and live, which is cool. And they can either download the assets and use themselves, or they can go to a central pool where a recruitment company is going to manage the whole process for them. Yeah. Pretty cool. But the cool thing about it is it's part of this broader...
It is, absolutely. It's all aligned.
Yeah. So we've got 2 minutes left. Okay, what do we want people to leave this session knowing, doing? What's the action or activity that we would really love from them?
Well, I would say we would like you to know that this campaign exists and that it's happening. We would like you to know that you can be part of it. Also that you are kind of the heart of it already. And so all that you have to do is align. So check out the assets. Follow us on all of our social media channels, which we have of everything. Instagram.
One of everything?
One of everything.
TikTok.
Instagram, LinkedIn.
Sign up to the newsletter.
Yes, the newsletter goes out bi-monthly, and it will give you updates on activity that we're happening. It will tell you success stories, case studies, ways to get involved. Research. There's a lot more to come in the next year, so now is a really good time to get on board.
Yeah. How have we seen New Zealand companies getting engaged so far? What's kind of like, have we got some good practice that we've seen that we'd like others to kind of follow?
Well, we did a round of workshops at the beginning of the campaign, which was middle of last year. So that was a roadshow that went nationwide. And there were some really cool companies that came to those and then got quite involved. So Aware Group in Hamilton, they've just rebranded to Aware, so I need to make sure I get rid of the group. They came along and were really awesome and understood what the message was. And as a result of that, they now have a case study on the website. They've rebranded and used the tech story messaging as central to their rebrand about being ethical and sustainable use of AI and emerging technologies for their customers, which was really cool. We've been creating a bunch of case studies with companies, and we've got about 12 up on the site now. Nice. And it's been really cool to see when companies really align. So a good example of that is Data Talk, which is a company out of Wellington. And they have their kind of tagline, which is collective success, which really resonates with this partnering with the world and also collaborative nature. And so I really liked seeing how they took what was a tech story key message and put it into their own language. And that's what I would really encourage the companies to do.
Perfect. Anything else that we want to add? What would you love to see? What does success for this whole See Tomorrow First look like?
I would back that. Just get involved, because we're creating all of these assets for NZTech companies to better sell themselves offshore.
Yeah, and definitely sharing their stories, because we need stories to share in the international campaign as well. And all of those stories, we work very closely together, the Dream Team. So just sharing this and hearing more of what New Zealand's doing in the tech sector.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, three of you, for coming in, being my first guest this afternoon on Tech Week TV. There you go, there you have it. That is the New Zealand tech story, seetomorrowfirst.nz. Make sure you go there, really do lean in on this. I mean, the whole theory behind this, as we've talked about, is that telling an international story is quite difficult. Trying to change the global perception of New Zealand in this dimension will not be an easy thing. We know we've got great technology companies, we know that we're sophisticated, that we have incredible value to offer, but we need to convince the rest of the world. The way to do that is not by a single government agency like NZTech trying to do it all, or a single company. It's by having the 1,000 or so New Zealand companies who act internationally, all being consistent with the way that they present themselves, the values that they show, the imagery, the graphics, and change perception or grow the perception over time for everyone's benefit. So I hope that you'll get involved. And with that, we're going to end up the session. Thank you again. We will be back in a few minutes with another tech leader and tech story. And you don't want to miss this. This is Ike GPS. And talking about great New Zealand technology companies, Ike GPS has got a wonderful story that they're going to share with us. I think he's coming from the US, actually, for this particular session. So we'll look forward to that. Ka kite a popo.